Gentleman's time has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Kansas for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Senator, a follow-up on the question of the gentleman from Arkansas. You did mention your concern about that. If you were so concerned about making certain that your investors were whole, how come you quit 4 days after bankruptcy was declared?
In a response to a board request is why I resigned.
Okay. And during those 4 intervening days, what did you do to attempt to make the investors whole?
I resigned on November 3rd. That's correct. It's 2 days, and I spent Tuesday, at least in the early morning hours, trying to find out some of the same questions that people are asking here with no particular positive results on that.
So nobody seemed to know where the funds were, and no one would tell you?
There were...
Did you ask the question where those funds were, and what was the answer?
People were still looking. Lots of transactions were in train.
I appreciate it. I am short of time, and I appreciate it. I think it'd be the same answer as we see before. I want to establish a little bit of timeline. I'm trying to understand. On the 1-year anniversary of Dodd-Frank, on July 20th, you conducted numerous meetings with members of the CFTC.
I had 2 conference calls with the CFTC on those days.
I have you down, according to the records, at the CFTC. You had a meeting with former employee at 1 p.m. on the phone with Mr. Gensler. At 2:15, you had a meeting with Ms. Summers on the phone, and at 3:30 with the 3rd Commissioner, Mr. Chilton. Can you describe the topics of those calls?
To my recollection, I was on the phone call, conference call, with Chairman Gensler at 1 and Commissioner Chilton at the time that you brought forward. And again, as we have suggested and both written in my response to questions, primary subject of that conversation were repos between the broker-dealer and the FCM.
Okay, three separate meetings according to the CFTC with 3 separate commissioners that you participated in. Did you have any separate calls or conversations with Mr. Gensler when you took the job at MF Global to the present time, other than what you've indicated?
Best of my recollection, you have my calls, my meetings.
Okay.
Outlined.
You never once called a cell phone?
No.
Okay. Did you ever call another member of the administration during this time about any of these issues?
I'm sorry, Congressman, I can hear you.
Did you ever call a member of the administration? I mean, you were very close to the current administration as a very generous campaign bundler. Did you ever visit with anybody in the administration about your business at MF Global?
To my knowledge, I have never spoken about the business of MF Global to anyone in the administration.
Did you visit with anybody at the Federal Reserve?
I visited with people at the Federal Reserve, as I reported, with respect to the primary dealer, as I testified to the primary dealer relationship, always with staff, and never with either the president or chairman or any of the board of governors.
On December 21st of last year, you had a meeting with CFTC Commissioner again about segregation and bankruptcy. Do you recall the topic of those particular discussions, which seem very appropriate given our conversation?
If I'm not mistaken, Commissioner Summers spoke about that meeting this morning, and it had to do with issues on the treatment of swaps consistent with how futures were traded, and how Dodd-Frank would deal with those issues in coming CFTC discussions.
So no,
Frankly, I don't remember even the specifics. A relatively short meeting.
well, we are lucky that at least the CFTC had a record. There was a meeting. As we learned earlier, though, apparently they don't keep notes. Does your private secretary keep notes of these meetings that might be helpful to our understanding of the committee?
To my knowledge, that they did not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Senator, I appreciate your time and I appreciate the questions, but again, I'd like to ask the question directly for myself. What do I tell my producers that, should I suggest that you are contrite, you felt sorrow, but you're not going to try to make them whole, and that just good luck. We hope you find your $200,000. Is that a pretty good summary?
Congressman, I hope you believe that I am as intent in answering the question of where this money is as anyone in the room.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The chair now looks to the gentleman from